You ever get tired of thinking about yourself? Because I did. I remember one day sitting in my bed and thinking to myself, me. How much can one person think about themselves? It's not a secret. I've been trying to figure out a way to live a healthier and balanced life that includes my phone and these social media apps. So one of the ways that I tried to do this was trying to make sure that if I'm going to be on the app, then the content that I see needs to be making me better in some way, whether it's financial health or actual, gut health, wellness, that type of things. Started following a lot of creators who had me thinking about making a positive change in my life. A lot of motivational speakers, actually, that type of Ed Milet, Jamie Kern, Lima, that type of vibe, And I'm not here to say that it didn't help me at all, because it did. And in fact, I ended up following more people. So how did I make the link between these wellness apps might actually be getting in my way? There's an 85-year-old Harvard study that says that the number one thing to living a happy life is positive relationships. And research actually shows that your social relationships might have more of a bigger impact on health than we would generally think. I identified 3 issues that we are going to go through in this video, and the things that I did to feel better and to feel like, okay, I think I'm actually being more balanced and I'm on the track that I had set out to when I started seeking out this wellness information. Kombucha, oil pulling, gut health, financial education, productivity courses, raw milk. My algorithm has a big wellness tinge to it because I built it that way. I've been trying to figure out a way to live a balanced life with this phone in my life. I'm not 100% ready to give up on the apps. I do think that they are great and I learn a lot. This is not a video with me trying to say that these people are lying to you or they're giving you false information. I don't know who you follow, but I do think that they are all missing one really, really big thing. In some cases, they might actually be making things worse. Creators that I follow who have this focus on wellness or self-improvement have a lot of followers, so obviously we're all seeking out, or a good amount of us are seeking out this type of information, which is why I felt like it was important for me to actually put this out, because if I struggled with it, then somebody else might have struggled with this, and maybe this is helpful for you. I'm not here to say that these creators are unhelpful, because they actually did help me a lot, which is why I followed more people. What I didn't realize is I don't think we're supposed to think about ourselves this much. I don't think that we are supposed to spend so much time thinking about how can I improve myself? What else can I do? It's like we're all trying to live this highly optimized life for ourselves, but there is not enough of this super important thing that we humans need, which is social interaction. There's not enough of focus or emphasis on that. And in some cases, the apps might actually make it worse, because you have some creators telling people that you need to disappear for 6 months to change your life, or you need to go into this super intense isolation period just to make sure that you change your life. Human beings are social creatures. I don't think we're supposed to do that. And I don't think that we should be encouraging people to do that. And even if they're not outright encouraging, it's the life that they end up modeling. Have you ever watched a productive day in my life or a productive week in my life video? They might go out and do a workout, come back, get some work done, showing some intense focus period, they are eating healthy. All of this is great. But what you never really see is the creator hanging out with other people, or talking to other people, or mixing and mingling with other people. Research actually shows that your social fitness, which is an actual real term, is a real part about living a healthy, balanced life. Creators just don't focus on that, and I think that the reason why they don't is because we're watching them literally do their 9 to 5. This is their job. And I don't know about you, but I can't take my friends to work with me. I can't, put them in my purse and head into the office. I might be talking to them all day on text and stuff like that, but I can't physically show them. And so I think, this is my theory, that these creators end up showing such a solo life because, well, I hope that they have friends outside of it. But again, like their 9 to 5, you can't always show a life of you hanging out with these people or doing stuff, because A, they might not want to be on video, or like they just don't have the time. I think the important thing to remember here is that the advice that we get online is an aspect of a fulfilling life. These things require balance, and we need to keep in mind that human beings are social creatures. And just because these people are not showing themselves doing life with people doesn't mean that that's something that we need to model. I think that I hadn't realized that in my attempt or my path to live my most balanced, best life, I was intaking way too much content about the self and self-improvement. And again, I don't think that we're supposed to think about ourselves this much. It's probably why there's so much talk about like isolation and loneliness these days, honestly. According to Google, your social health is the ability to maintain and build positive, supportive relationships with others, which include family members, community members. It contributes to your overall sense of well-being and belonging, which again, as humans, is something that we're constantly striving for, something that we constantly want. And I quote, "A landmark study published in 2010 found that the quality of someone's relationships is a bigger predictor of earlier death than obesity and physical inactivity, and on par with smoking and alcohol consumption." And I don't know about you, but I don't know creators or wellness creators who are talking about your social health or the fact that we need to actually seek real positive relationships, or the fact that we need to seek healthy interactions with people in real life. But even if we don't want to scapegoat creators, because again, I'm not here to do that, I do still find the information valuable. I think there are other issues, and I mentioned 3 at the start. Let's move on to number 2. Even if we don't want to scapegoat wellness creators, the phones in general are an issue. So it's not just about the content that people are making. And in fact, it almost kind of doesn't matter because the issue is still there. Every moment that you spend on your phone is a second that builds into a minute, that builds into an hour, that builds into days and a lifetime of being on your phone. The time that we give to these apps is things that we can't get better. And yeah, we define social health as like the supportive relationships that you have with people in front of you. But again, research actually shows that those random interactions that you have day to day are actually super important for your social health. Social fitness is not just about having a close group of friends. When you're in line at the coffee shop and you have a nice chat with somebody next to you, or you get into your Uber and you start chatting with them because, you know, they might have something interesting to say, which honestly has happened to me a good amount of times. These are interactions that are really important to us as humans. I'll give you an example. I went to Target last week and I'm walking into the store, and these days I'm trying to focus on the task in front of me. So that means I don't have like my headphones in, or I'm not scrolling as I'm walking in, just looking around, and I see the cutest baby in front of me. This child literally looked like a Pixar kid. It had the cutest, chunkiest cheeks, and I turned to the mom and I'm like, "You have the cutest baby ever." And she smiled, but what I noticed was the person in front of me who had overheard that looking back and smiling as well. These are the spontaneous interactions that, I don't know about you, but they literally just like, they give me a little pep in my step, and I remember it for the rest of the day. That wouldn't have happened if I had walked in there on my phone, or I just wasn't paying attention to the surroundings and the people around me. And I can promise you that I remember that interaction, but if I had been scrolling, I probably would not remember what I had been looking at on that page in that moment. And this is just something that we do now, or at least I do. Any moment that has like waiting period, I'll probably pull out my phone and look for something to scroll just to pass the time. And we're missing out on these moments that can allow us to have those spontaneous interactions that actually like literally feed us as people. And obviously some of this is cultural. It might not be the most normal thing everywhere around the world to go to and just start chatting with a stranger or like talking to people. But I know that for me, and at least living in the South, I have found that my daily interactions or random interactions with people really make me happy. And I'm not in the mood for it all the time. I'm not saying that, you know, every single Uber that you get into, you need to make sure that you talk to the person. Maybe they don't want to talk to you. But I am saying that we need to leave ourselves open to these spontaneous and random interactions with strangers that make us happy. Even if it's not a spontaneous interaction with strangers, when you're with your friends and you guys are all hanging out but you're scrolling on your phone, that is engagement that you're really missing. Part of what gives us, I guess, our intelligence as humans is the ability to read each other. Having a conversation is not just about what you say verbally. A lot of it is about how your expressions react or how your body reacts to information. And if you're talking to your friends or you're only engaging with maybe your ears, we're missing a whole world of cues that might help us be better people or relate to each other even more. So we've covered the content that we are listening to might have us focus on the self a little bit too much. The phones in general might have us missing a larger interaction with the world around us that could positively and does positively impact us. Let's get to number 3, which is, I think it's just making us way too hyper aware. Now, we talked about how it makes us think about ourselves too much. But what about the fact that sometimes we think that other people are thinking about us? And again, I just don't think that's true. Let me tell you where I'm coming from. These little platforms that we have been given almost make you feel like you're standing on a stage and all of the world is watching and they're paying close attention to your every move. Newsflash, they're not. I will sometimes see a tweet where people will talk about people are always lurking on my Instagram and they don't ever comment or they don't ever say stuff. I know that sometimes I will get on Instagram and I'll scroll and I'll just put my phone down and it'll still be on stories and it's just going through multiple stories that I'm not watching. But obviously my face is in that little bubble at the bottom, so it looks like I'm watching. So that example is just an idea of how we get into our own heads about the world watching us. And the real problem is not even the hater stuff. The real problem comes in when you stop living or you stop attempting things or you stop trying things because you're more worried about what other people might say about what you're doing than actually doing something. And if you think about it, everything that I've said in this video goes back to the fact that they're probably not watching that much. A lot of people are looking for content online to help themselves. So they're not paying close enough attention to you for them to be like tracking your every move on this venture that you're doing. Nobody cares that much. And I think that we would do well to remember that nobody cares, you know? And honestly, in a way, that's a good thing. You want the people that feed into the decisions that you make about your life to be actual people in your life that you care about, who you know actually care about you, and not imaginary haters or fans online. We don't actually have the impact that we think we do. Honestly, it sounds like I'm being a hater. This is supposed to be motivational. This is supposed to be freeing. The idea that people are not watching you as closely as you think they are. The point is, I just don't want over self-awareness to make us paralyzed to starting or attempting a new venture or new life. So this video was 3 things that we're missing about wellness, and all kind of having to do with the fact that social media is making us a little bit too self-absorbed or self-involved, either by having content that has us focused on the self too much and thinking that we can do life alone, or just day-to-day interactions that we miss out with people because we are glued to our phones and we're either not interacting with people or we're missing cues of interaction with people. And last of all, just being way too hyper and self-aware because of these apps that have given us platforms that we think make us uber important, which it doesn't, which then leads you to living a life that's kind of restrained. But it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, if you were looking for wellness and self-help content to begin with, you weren't doing that because you were trying to ruin your life. And I'm not here to say that self-help is ruining your life. I'm just here to say we need to introduce balance. And by that, I mean we need to introduce a little bit more of interacting with the real world into our daily lives. It's something that I struggle with daily and I haven't figured out perfectly, but there are little things that I've done to introduce more balance in my life since then. If you've looked through my page at all a little, I do a lot of food content, and that's because it's one of my hobbies. But at first, that was just something solo for me, which is what I needed it to be at the time. I needed to find a hobby that I could put myself into outside of my phone, and I needed to feel like I was learning something. But even with that, it got to the point where I was like, okay, the hobby is cool, it's cute, but I need to find a way for this to be something bigger than me, something that I'm just doing. And yeah, you know, I would cook and I would like have my siblings come over and pick up if I made too much or if I wanted them to try something. But being intentional about dinner parties was me saying that I wanted to give back to my friends and I wanted to do something that would feel fulfilling. I want to be able to put something together that's beneficial to them, that they feel like that I worked at something for them. The dinner parties are very much a labor of love, because how much good is a hobby that solely consists of me posting food online that nobody gets to try and nobody gets to eat? That's something that I did that really helped me a lot. So my first tip, and I have a whole video on how to find a hobby, is to find a hobby. Find something that has you engaging with the real world actively. I know that there are things that we do online, but I think as best as possible, depending on where you live and how accessible it is to you, we need to find a way to do things together in person, even if the hobby is online. You need to just find a way to transition that to outside. The next thing that I want to do this year, and I've had it on my list for a while, is some volunteer work. I really think that that will have me again in the mindset of just like helping other people. This has been a goal of mine for some time now. What are some causes that are important to you? What are some causes that might make you feel like you're giving back, or you're a little bit more fulfilled, or you're making a dent in this bigger problem or bigger issue that you've seen. I do a lot of, again, scrolling online, and one of the things that I'm constantly sharing with my friends or posting is like how literacy is going down and people don't know how to read or understand stuff. Like people are graduating high school without knowing how to read well. Things like that are really important to me. And so what is important to you outside of self-help? What is important to you outside of knowing how to focus better, knowing how to meditate better, and knowing how to journal, and your deadlifts and your green juice, and all the stuff that goes into wellness online? And even if you decide that your most important cause is self-help, how can you find a way to give back? I just think, again, we need to remove some of the focus of and on ourselves. And this is coming from your resident self-absorbed person. And the last thing is I will actually again be turning to the self-help content because I'm trying to fix my focus this year. And it's kind of random, but I do think that that will help. Remember how I said that, when you're on your phone, you're not properly engaging with the people around you? I think that if I fix my focus this year and I'm less dependent, or I'm less habitually turning to scroll on my phone, I might be a better person. I might be a more engaged person. I might be like a better friend. I don't know yet. I think that it enhances social fitness because it'll enhance the quality of time that you spend with people. So those are 3 things that I think are helpful: finding a hobby, volunteer work, and then fixing our focus. We can actually do these things together. If you guys have any advice or any other tips that you think might be helpful, I encourage you to leave that in the comments so that we can all share, what's working and what's not working for us. Human beings are social creatures. We're meant to do life together. And the amount of times that we're spending on our phone, I don't think that anyone would argue that social media hasn't made us at least a little bit more divided. Obviously, there are great benefits to it, and I'm not trying to knock on that at all. But I think we can all agree that it's made us a little bit more divided. And I think part of that is how much it has us thinking about ourselves and our opinions, and that like we're the center of the world. Newsflash, we are not. There's a ton of useful information online, a ton of funny stuff, creative stuff, and I don't want to give that up. Me turning to the wellness content online was because I know that I don't want to give it up, and I'm trying to find a balance. But I did find that in trying to do that, I discovered another issue. And so I'm just ringing the alarm bell in case other people might be on the same path, and just to keep aware that if you're on your phone trying to find ways to be better, you're still on your phone, and that's still kind of an issue. If you enjoyed this video, you will probably enjoy this one, which is about how to build a hobby, and I really encourage you to watch that next.